Hi, we're here with Roy Wexler. Thanks for giving us some of your time today. You're the CEO of a brand new startup called Fairfare, Farfare. Really cool, which is really the first cost avoidance for the travel insurance space.
Yep, exactly.
And we want to learn more about it, hear more from you. Where'd you get the idea from? How it all started? Tell us a little bit about the actual industry. We'll go through a few questions and learn about the space.
Sure, yeah, no problem.
Cool, great. So let's just start with you. Like, how did you come about this? How did you discover it? What did you discover? What's the opportunity here?
Well, I'll start a little bit background on myself, like for 2 minutes. So, I'm an attorney by profession. I'm actually licensed in Israel and in New York State. My first gig as a lawyer wasn't being a lawyer in a courtroom. I didn't like that. It was actually being in-house counsel for a large insurance company in Israel.
Oh, so you were already in the insurance space?
I was paid.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the largest travel insurance carriers in Israel. I then moved to work for a U.S. health tech company, doing a lot of stuff for the U.S. healthcare system, essentially managing data exchange between medical providers and large payers in the U.S. Around December 2023, I had a chat with one of my friends who went to the U.S. and he's like, "You used to work in a travel insurance company, right?" And I said, "Yeah." Why are the premiums so high for the U.S.? I mean, I go for like 3 weeks and they're just ripping me off. And I said, well, everybody's ripping off because you go into the U.S. The healthcare issue there is very expensive for carriers.
Let's stop for a second. I don't think you should say ripping off because you might offend.
Okay, I agree. So it's expensive. Everybody,
Right.
but it's expensive for a reason. It's expensive for a reason because the U.S. healthcare industry is very expensive for everybody, not just for payers in the U.S., but also for international payers. But then it came a thought to me, wait, why are travel insurance companies putting themselves as if they are local payers? Are they taking advantage of all the technological and business tools that they can to mitigate that cost? Just a question. And that started like a whole process of, diving deep into the industry, developing some products to see if they work or not. And eventually what we figure out is that international payers and assisting companies are great at managing the risk. They want to avoid it, but we didn't see any technology offered to them or developed by them to create avoidance instead of mitigation. And the difference is, so you can get a high cost claim, let's say a very high inpatient case, right? That you pay $200,000 for 2 days in the hospital, and you can get a great local discount on that. You can cut it off by 60, 70%.
Wow.
But what if I tell you that you didn't actually need the hospital? You could go to a $200 clinic in 30 minutes and solve it. That's the difference between mitigation and avoidance.
Okay.
So while there are a lot of local tools in the U.S. to create avoidance, none of the travel insurance players are taking advantage of them. Well, we had to develop to tailor-make them into the travel insurance space, but they're not utilized. It's the same old industry. So we said, okay, let's put some avoidance tools in the workflow. The challenge here is not actually creating that value. It's very easy to create steerage in the U.S. It's not tough. The problem was originally to have large travel insurance carriers with 600, 700,000 call center managers to work on the same workflow to make sure that everybody's doing what they need on our platform, that the cost is actually avoided. That's the problem. It's a product problem. It's a technology problem. It's not necessarily a business problem.
Okay, so why don't you're talking about a lot of different concepts, a lot of different players. There's the end customer, there's the insurance companies, it's hard to follow a little bit. Why don't you take us through the whole workflow of each player, what the role is, and where the opportunity lies?
Great. We're going to start first by saying that not every travel insurance carrier works the same. The space has a lot of workflows. And let's start using examples. I go to the U.S. I buy travel insurance policies from carrier X. Under the policy terms, I need to call carrier X before every claim. Even if I need care, I don't feel well, I need to call them. I don't feel well, I call to carrier X. But carrier X on the policy is actually, it's a phone number not of carrier X. It's a phone company of an assistant company. Assistant company Y. I call assistant company Y, and they tell me, look, just go get care and pay with your pocket. If you go to the hospital, let us know because we need to arrange the payment, with the billing system, and then just give us the medical documents, and that's it. That's carrier X. Now we go to carrier Y. Carrier Y has their own assistant workflow within in-house. So they have 400 representatives, doing the assistance themselves. So I need to call carrier X, actually call the carrier for assistance.
Oh, that sounds so complicated.
And now I have carrier Y. So carrier Z. Carrier Z is not working with assistant companies. Maybe it's too small. Maybe they don't want to invest. They just tell the members, you do whatever you want, and if the claim is approved, we'll pay you. So just there, I named 3 different types of carriers. If you
On the first step.
On the first step, if you translate that into a product, should be 3 different products. We'll talk about it later, but that's the complexity just by understanding that there are different types of travel insurance carriers in the space. Now, let's do the first carrier where I need to talk to the assistant company. Now, I don't feel well. A lot of assistant companies, because of pressure from the members sometimes, default to the emergency room. If you're in a foreign country, you don't know what to do, you don't feel well, you just throw up, you have a fever, you're dizzy, you want to get care, you default to the emergency room because that's what you know. And it also depends where the member comes from. If the member comes from a home state that has, state-sponsored healthcare, maybe the workflow is there. So the members think differently on how healthcare should be managed in a foreign country.
Right.
So, but the default is always ER. We see it
It's
in
like
the data.
what's your health culture?
Exactly. But we see the default going to ER. So going to the ER in the US is not just something you can just walk in and get care. Who's paying for your care? And it could cost a lot of money. So that's where assistant companies come in, and they do an important role. So what they do, they engage with local players to get access to them. So hospitals know those local...
When you say local players, what do you mean?
Local insurance companies.
Okay.
Local insurance companies in the US, they engage them, and those local insurance companies give them access to their medical network, their medical provider network. So the provider now sees someone from a network that they identify. And that identification is not only important for the discount that local payer has with the provider because they work on a discount basis, but it's also important for billing perspective. That insurance company, that local insurance company, pays the bill for the medical provider. So that's carrier X, right? Call assistant company engages local insurance companies pay hospital. Insurance company collects from assistant company company collects from travel insurance carrier. If the assistant company is dealt in-house, this entire process and engagement is within the assistant companies. So just getting care as a travel insurance member, I go through 3, maybe 4 middlemans to arrange for the payment.
Wow, that is really way too complex for something that could really be so simplified.
It is partly because of how the U.S. healthcare space is built. When you want to, so there's even more players that you're not aware of. So clearinghouses and TPAs and claims processing, and there's a lot of people in the middle. But essentially, a lot of folks are complaining about the U.S. healthcare system, but because it's privatized, the billing structure is very automated, and that's great. That's great for data. So
it's great for what? I'm sorry?
For data.
For data.
If you're an insurance company or an assistant companies and you work in the US, you should insist on getting data, access to that data. It's called an EDI, electronic data interchange. Meaning you exchange clinical data and billing data via code, not via PDFs.
Okay.
When it's exchanged via code, you can index that data in a database, and then you can start measuring it. You can start engaging it. You can do a lot of stuff to help you prevent future cost, but it's just sitting in a PDF in your CRM, then you can't really learn anything from the data, right?
I see.
But again, to our story, in the travel insurance space today, a lot of carriers are not taking advantage of it. They're still getting a lot of those bills via PDF, although they can insist and ask for the actual data, and they don't. So that's another opportunity that we're leveraging, and everything within our product is indexed and electronic, and it's all in a database.
I'm still not clear with all this kind of tabula rasa of players and possibilities. Where do you come in? What's that really that if you could really simplify it, just say it in a couple of sentences, where is the benefit that Fanfare offers?
So think about that moment I told you before where a member defaults to the ER.
Yes.
That's where the problem starts. I want to influence that decision. Whether is a member calling to a call center from an assistant company or the in-house assistant team or on WhatsApp themselves, I want to help that member get the best location of care or the best provider for their situation. We need to understand the ER in the US and almost every other place in the world, 99.9% of the cases, you don't need the ER. The ER is for life-threatening events, right? Heart attack, stroke, appendix. Someone needs to give you care within an hour or you'll die. That's why you don't go to the ER for a fever or for a sore throat or for an ankle sprain, right? So, and we knew that, and we have clinicians working with us, and we talked to them, and we said, okay, let's first start how we can influence that decision. And it's amazing how AI can now streamline this decision very quickly.
Oh, cool. How?
So we just have an embedded AI product within the workflow for members and for case managers, whether assistant companies or travel insurance carriers. And they just put the symptoms in free text. They get 5 or 6 follow-up questions from our AI engine, and they just get a decision if you don't need to go to the ER, or you can go to an urgent care clinic. An urgent care clinic is a smaller clinic. They usually cost between $200, $300 on average. You're in and out within half an hour, and they usually, in most cases, can give you care. Sometimes they can't. I agree. Sometimes they're overcrowded. They don't have that X-ray machine they need at the moment. It's not working. They send you to the ER. But those are like the exemptions. The rule is that they can give you care. So by influencing that decision, now it's just a matter of execution, and we also take part of the execution.
But if it's just, sorry for interrupting, but if it's just that one decision about ER versus urgent care clinic, isn't that just simple to just advertise that and make sure everybody knows that that's the choice to make? What's more complex behind it that you're solving?
So we're not relying on the plug-and-play kind of GPT or Gemini engines. We actually have physicians taking symptoms and actually guiding the data sets under the LLM. So it's not just using the public data, right? We don't want 85% accuracy. We want 99.9% accuracy. And it takes time, and we're like 70, 80% there, which is great. And we are seeing a reduction of around 36% in ER cases when you're using the AI properly.
Wow.
So now
so you're providing, among many things that you provide, in the front end or to kind of a screening mechanism.
Exactly. So whether you're a case manager, and then just one, then how do you select the best provider for you, right? We can discuss it later, but essentially, we now give you the workflow. I call it workflow. Now, it's not just you, it's a workflow. You can actually identify the member within our system. You can input your case ID, you can put the symptoms, and everything is logged and indexed. So you know what happened to that case, something that doesn't happen today. So a lot of insurance companies and assistant companies today use Google just to find what the member needs. But that completely, right? It's the wrong process. You need to have, and there is a very important quote I'll take. I forgot the person who made that quote. I saw it on LinkedIn, so I'll try to give credit on the transcript. But essentially, he said, if you are not actively steering the members, someone else with very deep pockets is steering the member for you in a way that you can't imagine. Someone will always steal your member. When your member gets to a hospital by themselves, the hospital will steal the member within the hospitals, sometimes to the most expensive departments. Maybe it's justified, maybe it's not. But there is a reason why U.S. healthcare is so costly. It's not just...
They're for profit.
Exactly. When something is for profit, it's not done just on a cost basis.
Right.
Someone needs to make a profit, right?
Right.
And that profit, if you have a profit incentives, you want to make more.
Right.
So, so you always need to make sure that you're using the right workflow to steer your member to the right location. That's the first step, but it's a two-step process. First, you start with a decision. I'm going to steer the member. You gain the insight from the AI engine. I need to send a member to an urgent care clinic.
Right. That's the screening.
Now I need to execute. Now I need to make sure, okay, which urgent care clinic can accept the member, give them care without the member paying any money.
And is this true throughout all the states within the U.S.? Okay.
It is. I mean, it's the
all
same
the
system.
same.
It's all the same. We serve members all across the U.S., Hawaii to New York, right?
Okay.
So essentially, now the execution of this decision is also very complex, and we don't use AI for that. That's with a lot of data. So let's say the member needs an ER.
Okay.
The member needs an ER. The AI said, and it happens to us a lot. Member needs to go to the ER. How do you pick the ER? We know there are like cheap hospitals,
Several.
more expensive hospitals,
Right.
outrageous hospitals. How do you pick? How do you know where to go? Yes, as a large carrier, assistant companies, you have trend on your data, but you're using data that was billed to travelers, and we know that sometimes it's inflated. Like tourists are getting ripped off on every aspect of their life, not just hospitals, cabs, sometimes food, sometimes clothing.
Right. They
right?
don't. They're not local.
They're not local,
they
so
don't know the.
they don't know.
Right.
So if I can get access to local data and tell you exactly who's going to rip you off and who's not, so that's something that's also valuable, and we have.
Very valuable.
So what we've done, we've taken a lot of public data, advertised by CMS, Medicare agency, right? Medicare, Medicaid. We've taken our own data. We bought some data, and after a long time, we've created a scoring system for 3,000 hospitals.
So you use that data to teach your engine.
Exactly. It's teaching and advancing, but essentially what we said, okay, how do you know if a claim is reasonable or not in the U.S.? How do you know if you were overpriced? It's a question that I asked everybody. And what folks told me, look, we know the UCR, the usual, reasonable, and customary rate. It's essentially saying, I know the cost. Okay, that's one, fine. But what if that provider's cost is substantially higher? Right, in the area, you wouldn't be able to differentiate between what should be the UCR. So we said, okay, do we have any public data that we can use to see pricing? And there is Medicare. If you want to, so classic Medicare.
That's so clever.
So
yeah,
classic Medicare, not Medicare Advantage, because Medicare Advantage is administered by local payers. It's privatized, but classic Medicare, they have the rates online. Every quarter, CMS publishes every code, every line of service. You can see what Medicare would pay and what's the copayment. So we essentially know what a classic Medicare plan would pay for every code in my bill.
And they have it per various localities, zip codes, whatever.
So every provider, it's great. It's a great question. So we started by saying, okay, let's use calculators out there, right? Calculators, we can buy a calculator. You know, a lot of companies sell Medicare calculators, and we can just use it and see what's the price for every claim. But then we figured out that Medicare has a very strict coding rule. A medical claim is just an aggregation of codes. 99283. That's a 30-minute visit in the ER. 80053. That's blood work. So every code is priced, right? But Medicare says, look, you can't use those two codes I've just mentioned in the same bill because we see evaluation and management 9900803 as including blood work. So if I see those two codes together, I'm going to strike that claim, or I'm going to zero those codes. So, but when you take a travel claim that providers are not coding according to Medicare rules, you're getting outliers. We're getting weird results on the calculator because the calculators are taking into consideration the coding rules.
Oh.
So we had to create our own calculator to tailor it to the travel insurance space. And that's what a lot of carriers don't know. They use Medicare services to calculate claims, but those claims are rejected or voided because the coding rules don't fit. So we had to create our own calculator. But if I'm putting the calculator aside, that's just calculating claims that we received. How are you projecting what the claim would be for every provider? That's where we took a lot of data and we started seeing billing trends for every hospital, 3,000 hospitals. And we can now project in 90%. If a hospital bill would be 1 to 5x on Medicare, that's a good hospital. Why it's a good hospital? Because local payers, when they measure themselves, they pay between 2.5x to 4x on Medicare. So if you're on Obamacare, or if you're on a self-funded plan in the US, and you're on, let's say, X network will say this was a good claim because it was, let's say, 3x Medicare. So 1 to 5, it's good for me because I can get a discount between 40 to 50%, depends on the provider. I can get to 2.5x Medicare. So I want to get to those providers. So that's 1 to 5.
I see.
And then 5 to 8, that's like, try to avoid it. It's not bad. I mean, if I get 8, I get it to 4. That's like my top, that's the ceiling. But 8 plus, that's a red. Don't get near that provider. So we have those for 3,000 hospitals. So now
Wow.
you've made a decision that you need to go, and it was an informed decision. You need to go to the ER. You need the member to go to the ER. Now I can give you the tool to navigate between costly providers and cheap providers. And that's where you start seeing a lot of costs avoided as well. Again, because cost avoidance is not just about the decision, but also the execution. And then we can get a local membership card. We have engagement with local.
And how do you prevent that the cost saving doesn't end up, along the line of all the middlemen? They will take from that cost saving, that it won't actually serve the end customer or the last touch of the of the travel agent.
Is the question, how are you going to piss off the local players that you're taking a lot of business from them?
No, my question is, you described that there is a workflow of various players and middlemen. So when you have this whole scheme that you described to save money, right, cost saving, how is that cost saving being shared?
Great point. This is why it's a great question. Actually, that's the business problem with disruptive products. If you're creating a new ecosystem, if you're creating a new workflow, you need to have the players in the market adopt that workflow to capitalize on, right? So insurance companies with in-house assistant companies would love this product because interests are aligned. But if an assistant company, part of their business model, and that's okay, to capitalize on cost savings, how do you convince them to now change their contracts to capitalize on cost avoidance? I think we can, because there's a lot more money to be made on avoidance, because the industry holds a lot of data, past data. So they know their benchmarks. They know that for carrier X, they saved 40% of all claims. But now if I just take 30% of the claims themselves and turn them from $6,500 on average to $200, they need to capitalize on that, right? And that's the problem with disrupting the market. You need to teach, you need to educate old players how to capitalize on that new market, and that's what we're doing.
Right. So you're disrupting the business processes. You're disrupting some traditional ways of doing things. There's a technology part. There's the business part. You have to understand so many different players within your industry. It's really cool, really fascinating. If I asked you, I know that this is kind of really complicated if someone's following the whole conversation. If you could describe it, not the whole story, but really in 2 or 3 sentences, I know that there are several benefits, but really the overall benefit of why you need this company that you started.
There is a trend of overutilizing the most expensive medical resources in the U.S. in the travel space, emergency rooms. Too many travelers walk in to emergency rooms with no clinical reason. We want to change that. We want to reduce it by 30 to 50%. And from the data we're seeing, because we're already serving large clients, that's where the market will go eventually.
And how do you make sure that no one else comes in and takes this idea? I mean, it seems really simple. Like, hey, don't just go straight to the ER. Here's a few screening questions. Go to urgent care.
It's a great question, because it's not just about the decision, as I said before. Steerage involves the decision and execution. Try to combine all those 3 in one workflow with your own proprietary data and sell it to insurance companies. Good luck. That's like selling technology to insurance companies. That's my greatest moat. Nobody will come,
with all this insurtech.
Nobody will come near this space because it's so difficult to sell this complex workflow to insurance companies. I know we can do that. We have the team to do that. We have the expertise, and we're convicted on that. But every time I used to meet with investors...
You don't mean convicted.
Not conviction, sorry.
Yes.
Every time I met with investors, they ask me, what's your moat? I said, I'm selling to insurance companies. That's my moat. Nobody's in this space. There is something in the insurance space that I heard a year ago. It's called insurtech fatigue. Insurance companies are done with technological products that promise a lot of savings, a lot of sales, but end up just being useless. There's a lot of problems, or there's a lot of issues, I think, with how startup companies engage insurance companies. If you didn't work for an insurance company, if you don't know the restrictions, how the development process work, how the buying committee thinks, you're never going to be able to sell.
There is a buying committee.
Exactly. So what I always say, insurance companies work very smart. People say, insurance companies, it takes time. It's going to take you 18 months to engage them. There is a reason why it takes time. Insurance companies are built to take risk on their business. That entire focus is to make sure that they're not going to collapse, that their loss ratio would keep some money for their members, right? That's the most horrible thing that an insurance company could suffer. But essentially, but they don't have a lot of focus on, products that they can integrate into their workflows to make them work better. A lot of insurtech startup, they build like those huge spaceships without even asking, okay, where my spaceship fits into that insurance company's workflow. And what happens if every insurance company has their own,
So what
workflow?
I'm hearing is that, in order to succeed, your system is very, very agile, that it could
Super agile.
actually be customized
Yes.
to all
Yes.
these very specific ways of doing business.
Exactly. If an insurance company or an assistant company wants me to tweak something in my UI for them, I can do that in an hour. And it's not because
Wow.
we're building it on a microservice
You could
basis
do
like this.
that in an hour?
Yes. Because I always say folks may disagree with me, but we're an AI native company. Everything from scratch is built for AI, with AI, and the core value proposition, well, at least half of it is AI. It used to be that you would need to raise a lot of money to maintain this kind of microservice, I would say, space where you can tweak and help insurance companies build different workflows. If you remember past SaaS products, you can tweak the UI yourself within the UI.
Right.
And that would require a lot of development back in the day.
Yeah.
Now I don't
And you don't need to know code to do
I'll give you an
anything.
example. We had one of our customers asking us, look, I see all the bills and it's great. I see it on the platform. I don't have a bulk download option. I need to be able to bulk download all the data from a date range and type. Within an hour, that feature was live in production.
Wow.
And he started using it. And now 1 hour. And I
That
measured
is
it.
very impressive.
So it's not about, so if insurtech companies, if I want something to come up from this episode, think about the workflow. Every company may have a different workflow. They have a different CRM. They have probably their own CRM.
What about
different workflow.
currency? Since you have people from international, global, so many different currencies. Is that also part of what you take care of, or you're staying out of that?
We're just charging in dollars.
Okay.
It's not, because look, you're paying providers in dollars. I charge my fee in dollars. It's not an issue.
I mean, for the
So the customer is not the member itself. The insured member is not paying
No,
anything.
he's not. No. I mean, like within the companies, right? They're international. They all work in different currencies.
Yes, but they keep dollars.
So
Most
it's
insurance
not-
companies keep dollars.
And which geography do you see really being?
That's a great question. So right now we're strong in South and Central America and in Israel. We're targeting, one of our main targets next is Europe, mainly the UK and Europe. UK is a very interesting
they're
location.
H and what's it called?
No, NHS, but a lot of
HS.
folks are going to the US. So it's US and Australia. You're sending a lot of folks with travel insurance to the US. It's a very concentrated market. And again, it's from the same as Israel. They have the NHS, as you said. So the default rule is let's go to the ER.
Right.
It's not going to cost us a lot of money, but it will. When you go in Israel to the ER or in the UK, you have a list of things that you're just exempt from payment if you have those, right? If you just go to the ER for a fever, you'll pay. But even in Israel, you'll pay $200. You're not going to pay
That's right.
$15,000, right?
That's right. That's right. All the English speaking, so UK, Australia, you see them as sort of like your next, geography where you're going to expand your business.
Probably. So look, I'll be honest. We're still not that sophisticated in opening and targeting new markets. We don't operate like a corporate business that sends folks to that market, start like a local marketing campaign. We do like I would call it just a
Horizontal,
spray and
vanilla.
pray, spray and pray. You call it, right? But it's we're doing it with AI again, so it's very sophisticated, right? I can talk today to folks in different markets, but because essentially what's unique about my problem is that every carrier, every travel insurance carrier, doesn't matter where they are, they all have the same problem: U.S. healthcare costs. If you would break down, right, the financial statements, not financial statements, sorry, if you break down the loss ratio of travel insurance carriers. Okay, so you charge $100 for a premium.
Yeah.
And then what happens to that $100? So let's say, okay, $5 were in claims, luggage loss. $15 were trip cancellations. Okay, that's $20. $30 were medical claims all around the world. From my experience, from the $30 that account for that medical claims, 23 is the U.S. So,
wow.
And I can take 30% out of that 23. That's just the start. That's where we start. I didn't even speak about the operational efficiency I'm creating. I can reduce the case manager numbers because my system is automatic. And the next step, we'll start adjudicating claims via AI. So
what does that mean?
Today, when someone files a claim, there's a case manager or a case adjudicator that says, okay, the policy term states that you have medical coverage. The coverage sum, let's say $200,000 is okay. The bill, okay, you fell and hit your knee, covered. Someone needs to do that 1 + 1 + 1 and make a decision that it's covered. Our platform, we hold all the data. We have your policy, we have your coverages, and we have the medical bills, and we have the medical documents. So the next step would be to give you an AI recommendation. Okay, this policy, you can just click approve it. Why? Here is the reasoning. So now we can save a lot of workflows. It's not just about saving costs on claims, but also saving costs on your operations.
So you're finding commonalities that could just be repeated processes.
Because we have access to the data, and everybody's working on our workflow. When everybody works according to your workflow, things are magical. You can take an insurance company from like 2007 to 2025 because you have the data. The data is not siloed, right? You don't work on a CRM that was in-house built 20 years ago. Everything is much easier to access.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We kind of touched on it earlier, but you gave a really long answer for how it started. But somewhere in there, what was your real aha moment? And you thought, wow, we could really make money here or save money for the industry.
Yes, I had that
and
moment.
we can really disrupt.
I had that moment.
I'm going to not be a lawyer anymore. I'm going to be a CEO. What was it?
So if you remember, I told you in the beginning, we started testing a lot of product ideas before we came up with that cost avoidance. The first idea was just give membership cards. Don't present them as travelers. Just show them, just show the card to the billing and you'll get a local bill instead of getting, inflated bill. That worked in some sense, but it didn't create that savings that we wanted. But we start getting data. So we gain access to data. And it was amazing. I remember that day I said, okay, I see we have a graph in our and the customer has that graph as well. So we see urgent care versus ER. And they're seeing every month they're like 50%. Same. 50%. And I said, wait.
50% of what?
So 50% ER cases, 50% urgent care cases.
Oh.
And it's like, that's too many ERs. No way that it's split 50-50.
It shouldn't be equal.
Shouldn't be equal, exactly. So I said, let's look at the medical documents. See what were the reasons that these folks went to the ER. And you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. I'm not going to repeat those cases, even though we don't say personal information. I don't want to talk about medical stuff. But those cases, 50% of them were unjustified.
Wow.
So I asked the client, what is this? He said, yeah, everything is justified. Our medical providers, they're approving it. And I said, look, let's go on a Zoom call. Let's go through one by one. And you tell me just rationally if you think that case warrants an ER. And we went one by one. And he said, look, I have that email. He said, I wish you were wrong. I wish you were wrong. That's my aha moment. The customer admitted that something is wrong in their workflow.
And that was your aha moment.
That was my aha moment because I said, okay, so they're now on board with me. So we said, look, I can fix this in a week.
Wow.
In a week. Give me the green light, I'll fix it in a week. He said, okay, you got the green light. Within 1 week, their medical team tested our AI cost avoidance workflow and approved it. And within 2 weeks, it was live.
Amazing.
That's how quickly we work, right?
That's amazing. Like the speed of it.
And that 1 week wasn't because we were ready within 1 day. I just wanted to break that, to test it from all, QA it from all angles.
Sure.
And I remember that after like 2 weeks of using it, they said, look, we may want to do that all across the organization, all around the world. So
Wow.
can we talk? That's where you're starting. It's not just an aha moment. It's like where you're starting to see that there's a product market fit.
So let's talk about product. If you could describe how you package your product, is it one product with various kinds of features, or is it several different products? Is it packaged? Like, how do you sell? What's the product?
So unlike a standard SaaS company that would give you tiers on different capabilities of the product, we don't work like that. I sell you one workflow. It depends on how you want to engage the workflow. And every time I improve that workflow, I'm not going to charge it for you. Because my end game is not to sell you software. You don't need software. You can develop your own software. What you need is cost avoidance, right?
So let's just stop right there. Say that again. That is the most important thing I think you've said. You're not selling software. You're selling cost
I'm
avoidance.
selling workflow that objectively achieve cost avoidance.
Right.
So that's why I don't call myself a software as a service company.
You're a disruptor.
I call it maybe a payer as a service payer, because payers have steerage, right? I call it the platform as a service, but it's not. I'm not selling. When you sell software to someone, it's usually for internal operational efficiencies.
Right.
I'm not trying to. At least for now, I'm not selling you. I do in some portion as a byproduct of my product, but the main objective of the product is to have cost avoidance in your workflow. So I sell a workflow, and that workflow can now be integrated with your CRM system, with my platform, with WhatsApp, with
Do you want to
iMessages.
say what some of the integrations are? Some of the big.
So that's another important question. This is so when you engage in insurance companies, you need to understand how these guys
They work
So
already.
insurance companies, unlike agile startups or like startups like us, they work in called the funnel like development cycle. So what would happen? They have a in-house built CRM system. In-house meaning either they built it, or someone else built it, but it's built for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually
It's
not
proprietary.
It's usually not off the shelves. Some insurance companies, they have Salesforce, Monday, whatever, but most of the insurance companies I've talked to, they have their own system developed for them with their features. So what it means that they don't enjoy the speed of development that Salesforce would do. So they aggregate all the new features they need every quarter or 6 months, and they release a software update.
Oh, okay.
So let's say you're an insurtech company and you want to integrate with their CRM. You have a feature that you want to embed in their internal product.
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably need to wait 6 months.
Wow.
Because they don't release their production within a quarter, 6 months. So I knew from day one we're not going to integrate with their systems. It started as a WhatsApp only tool, but then when we saw that there is just no other way, it ended up being our own platform. And every time they have a case in the US, they just open our platform. This is how expensive and painful the US healthcare system. When you can convince a company to ditch their workflow, to work with yours and solely with yours, that's how you know, first of all, that the problem is painful and that you may tapped into a very, solid
I just had my own aha moment about you. That is so cool.
Yeah,
that is
it's
really
it's
so
tough.
cool.
And again, we're going to be even deeper. So we're going to create a workflow where they don't need to open our platform just, manually. We're going to have a layover kind of engine on top of any Chrome browser. And essentially, if they're Chrome-based, if they're web-based, their CRM is web-based, it's just a matter of installing our agent, and they'll just see the data on the Chrome.
So let's go back to the original question. We talked about products and how you package it. So we said you don't have tiers. You have one sort of horizontal workflow that you sell. You're not really focusing on the software so much, but the business problem that you're solving.
We are focusing on the software, but it's mainly for the product to work better. So we're not selling, let's say we're not selling HiBob, which is a great company. They're a great company. They do a lot of good for the HR space, and they sell a software as a service, right? It's a platform, it's a web-based platform. You open it, and you manage your entire HR operations there. That's not what we do. What we do is we make sure that through our software, you pay less.
All right, let's get specific in terms of what kind of ROI the insurers can see. Maybe talk a bit in numbers. You've mentioned 30%.
Let's do numbers.
Yeah.
Let's take a carrier with 1,000 ER cases per year. We have a lot of carriers in the world with 1,000 ER cases, or assisting companies. The average ER case paid. So let's work the system. When you get an ER bill, that's not the bill you're going to pay. Never. Not in the U.S. local healthcare space and not in the international. What you usually do, you funnel that bill through a local insurance companies with discounts. And you pay the discount that they have with this hospital. And then you pay the insurance companies their fees. Doesn't matter. So let's say you have $12,000 bill. It's fine.
Sorry.
It's fine.
It's hurting my leg. Okay, I got it.
Let's start from scratch, that question.
Okay.
Because it was an important question.
So let me remember what I asked you.
The ROI.
Okay, let's talk about ROI and real numbers. What is real savings? Can you take that step by step in terms of the savings, the numbers, the ROI?
Great question. So let's start first with how you are billed in the U.S. How are you paying? So if you go to the ER, let's say you get $12,000 bill. You're not going to pay that bill. You're going to pay much less. Either you negotiate the bill yourself. Some companies do that, and they get good rates. Or literally calling the hospital and negotiate the bill. Or they use local insurance companies to get access to better in-network rates. And then you just pay, if you work with an intermediary, you pay their fees, or you don't if you're just doing it yourself. So let's say, from what we see, and we've ingested millions of claims, locally, internationally, just millions. And again, with AI, you can get really quick data insights. Let's say the average bill, after you're paying it, with the fees of containing it, let's say it's around $7,000, $6,500. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, depending on the year, depending on your portfolio, if it's sick. But essentially, that's kind of where the average is. And let's say an urgent care clinic would take, for the same condition, same treatment, on average paid after cost containment around $300, $250. If I can take of that, let's say, portfolio of 1,000 ER cases, if I can take 36% off, just eliminate, move it to urgent care.
30 to 60%?
No, 36% off.
36% off.
I can move it to urgent care. I just took 6,500 times 36. What's that? We can do a calculation.
We should do it in numbers that are easy to calculate. So say it was 10,000, right?
10,000. So I took $360,000.
Right.
Off
Times 1,000.
Yeah. Oh no, times 30. So it's 10,000 times 360.
Right.
I took 36% of the 1,000 ER cases.
Right.
I moved them to urgent care. So
I see.
now multiply 6,500 times 360.
I see.
That's what I took. Now, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that's just on the ER space. We're also saving a lot of money on urgent care. When you go, you do get discounts. We save money on pharma. We have access to pharma rates. And again, the operational.
So you mean the medication? That's
Yes,
what you mean.
we already have access
pharmacies.
to pharmacies as well.
So pharmacies also are part of the ecosystem?
It's a different ecosystem. I don't want to get into it right now. It's much more controlled, but prices are not inflated in a way that you can influence it. There is no cost avoidance in pharma. Either you pay cash, which you don't want to do, but essentially in pharma, when you do get access to, it's called the PBM. For international travels, it's a great product. You save a lot of money. So I do recommend, if I have a recommendation to any travel insurance carrier out there, it's not that hard getting access to PBMs in the US. Just call one of them and get access and give your members a code. They use the code in the pharmacy when they need it, and they just get great discounts.
Okay.
And you just pay a small fee to the PBM. So I
Cool.
recommend for travel carriers to do that. So those are the three verticals mainly that we save. But then again, we do save some on operations because our system is very easy. It's 7 clicks.
You mean in the efficiency?
So today, if you don't have our workflow, so a member calls, you need to put that member's information, create a claim in your system, one. Then you need to understand what's the problem. You need to make a decision somehow, either your supervisor or your own. You need to Google a provider or use one of the providers in your systems. You need to call that provider, give them some sort of a guarantee of payment, make sure the member got it. So it's a lot of it's
a lot of steps. So you're
it's not
cutting
a-
some of the
It's not a
steps.
workflow. It's a mess. It's a mess. It's not a workflow.
It's more like a spaghetti.
Yeah, exactly. You need to work with like three, 4 systems. In our workflow, 7 clicks from call to steerage execution, you're done. 7
Wow.
clicks. That's
So we're talking 36% around.
On
We're
ER.
talking down to 7 steps. And instead of weeks, it's days or hours. Sounds like you're making your solution. That's
Exactly.
great.
If someone needs customization, it's hours, not days and not weeks.
Okay.
And the product is integrated as an overlay on every web-based CRM. So it's very easy. We can trigger our product if we see a policy that it's part of our program of the US inbound. We can trigger our workflow as an overlay on top of your CRM. So there's no
Cool.
integration requirement. But I want to talk. I have some important note.
Okay.
And it took us a while to understand how important this is. Sometimes you're so focused on creating the best product, and you're talking to users and you're seeing data, but you sometimes miss the actual problem that underlying behind everything. The problem that I see today is not necessarily that you don't have steerage, or you don't have cost avoidance, or you don't have AI decision making. It's a big chunk of the problem. But one of the main problems is that it's very tough creating one workflow that would fit 400 representatives. This is something that not a lot of folks are talking about. But when you're creating a workflow for the mass, you need to take into account so many exceptions, so many edge cases, so many things that could happen. And just the back and forth with the customer on some of the problems we had initially, how we fixed them, how we found some problems ourselves and we fixed them, how quickly you need to act, because 400, 500, 600, 1,000 representatives are working on your product. And that's a problem that's just, I would say not a problem, but it's just a space that nobody's talking about.
I don't understand the last
Creating
thing you
a
said.
great product for 20 people is not as...
The robustness, you mean?
The robustness, the edge cases that you need to take into account. You need to QA that product so tough, so hard, and you need to make it so easy to use that 400 different representatives, 600 representatives, 1,000 different countries, different insurance companies could use it the same. It's tough. You need to create that product as if you're creating something for the masses. And that's something for insurtech companies to understand. If you're in the space of saving cost to insurance companies, if you're creating processes for insurance companies, you're creating a product for a lot of people. And every person uses your product slightly different.
But it's not true of almost every product, is it?
So
I mean, you're selling it globally. Every company.
So think about what I said.
Even
So,
enterprise software.
when you're selling to HiBob, it's a great example. HiBob dictates the workflow. It's a new product. Well, it's not new, but it used to be new
Right.
in a space that HR was managed on Excel. So they had a liberty to kind of dictate the workflow. When you work with insurance companies, every insurance company is a different market. They have their own workflows. They have their own system, their own data. So you need to make sure that your
they
product...
don't have repeatable things that are the same across the
As I said
board?
before, they each develop their own CRM system. It's different than selling SaaS.
Is that because on a code level they're different, or the actual steps they're taking are
Steps.
different?
Every company designed their workflow differently. In one company, you first need to input the case ID, right, before you can pick up the phone. In another company, you pick up the phone and the case ID is generated automatically. These two workflows create different problems for products like ours.
Right.
If you think about it, because, okay, I need to they need to put their case ID in my platform first, after just one single, one problem. So every company has their own workflows. And when I say when you need to adjust for that, your product needs to fit all of them. It's much harder than just selling a SaaS to an untapped space.
Yeah, but remember we talked about the fact that you need agility, that it's customized
Exactly.
and all of that. So how are we going to make this point different?
Well, we can't. I just think not a lot of insurtech startups, when I talk to them, they don't think about that. And I think it was an important note to discuss because it's very tough. It's very tough.
But the insurance companies, they don't think about all the difference. They only think about their own.
And that's the problem.
So, yeah.
It creates those slight edges and different scenarios for specific clients.
Okay, I know how to prompt you.
Yeah? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So we all know that, the insurance industry is quite traditional, and each one does it their own way, right? They have their own steps to take. They deal with clients different. The hospitals, they have different workflows. So how do you offer them a software that they could fit into their own way, not give up their edge of how they do business? They each are a different case. They approach things differently. How can you possibly offer them one workflow that would fit so many different ways of doing business?
That's an amazing question. So essentially, there isn't a way to do that, but there's a way to overcome that. So what we essentially do is we keep the core. And when I say core, I mean data, the application layer, API, internal APIs that we have. That is the same for everybody. Now, how you engage that core, that could be different. So one insurance company would want a web-based workflow. They just log into our platform via SSO and they work on it. Another company wants the same workflow, but as an overlay on top of their CRM. Another company wants it for their members via WhatsApp or iMessage. So in the past, that was very hard to do because you need a lot of money. You need to dedicate create a dev team for each platform, and every dev team, you don't need that anymore. With AI, within hours, you can create an entire new UI and an environment just to engage one carrier. And I think that was.
But it's not just on the GUI layer, right?
No.
It's
on
deep.
the logic.
It's on the logic.
Yeah,
it actually integrates fully into a system and how it works.
It's about the logic itself that changes. And
do you do that? Sorry for interrupting.
So I do the product design. I do the product design today.
And you do the service of integration, or do you give them API or the?
So today, what we offer, so we integrate with them just on the data level. They give us what's called eligibility files, which mean we have their policies. We know who are the members, right? Because they need to put that information into our platform when they start servicing those members. So that we do. That's just a SFTP-based integration. It's a secure way to integrate without having APIs. But then they actually have a very simple SSO into our platform. They log in and they start working, and they see all their data on our platform.
And the fact that they have to divulge all this private information, basically, aren't they regulations and compliancy that you need to?
So it's funny. We're a team of data security folks. I used to be a data security lawyer, and my co-founders are both, very involved in security. We're involved in security. We're SOC 2 compliant. That was my first $1, by the way. We raised a little bit of money, and that was my first $1.
What's the name of the compliance?
SOC 2 compliance.
Oh, okay.
So SOC 2 certificate. That's a security standard.
Isn't it HIPAA?
So okay, great. So HIPAA is for local, the local U.S. Healthcare space. That's the regulation that governs PHI secure. So personal health information security.
Okay.
That regulation is inapplicable to international payers.
Okay.
Because they work outside the U.S. But SOC 2 it's a security standard. It's not a regulation per se. It's a way for you to prove to your customers that your system is secured. There are two standards, ISO and SOC 2. I prefer SOC 2 because ISO just wants you to show the processes that you have.
Right.
SOC 2 actually asks for the evidence that you're doing what you need to secure your platform.
Right.
So we're SOC 2 compliant. We're actually in the process of renewing it now. So that's kind of how we offer those.
And are they, in terms of the different localities, and they have their own regulations that they have to
Yes.
show with your product?
Yes. And they when they need something from us, and it happened to us, they ask for a security. It's called the compliance questionnaire. And SOC 2 is so comprehensive. It's a 60-page report on how we do security. We just send them that report, and it solves all their
Oh,
problems.
wonderful, wonderful.
Because they
Great.
see that we have a risk assessment committee as a startup, that we gather quarterly to discuss risks. Everything is captured. Everything is evident. Everything is logged. It's if you want to look into our security, you can do it, and it's
Okay,
we're very
so
transparent
you're
on that.
compliant, you're agile, you're brilliant, you're disruptive. Thank you very much for your time. I
Thank
think
you.
we learned a lot.
It was great. Yes.
Yeah, good.
Perfect. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
All right.